Welcome once again to Exit Philosophy. He's Mal Ramanan. I'm Rich Griffin, and this is an emergency hack, much like a slider from a guy who's got really good stuff. We had a
Yeah.
technology issue when we originally recorded on Thursday, and I will admit that I'm not the most technologically savvy person in the world, and so I'll take total blame for it.
I thought you were calling me a hack. I mean, it's not the first time I've been.
But we will get at it again with some additions because we're able to include the opening of the 10 game home
Right.
road trip, the home opener for the Mets. So we have some comments on that and the unusual managing by our man John Schneider. But first,
Right.
I mean, we're not getting any breaks from the weather, and we've already talked about how
Well,
fortunate it is that the Rogers Center, Sky Dome, has a dome, and to
yeah.
hell with all those people who complain about it. But Mal, we talked about this before, but we've both traveled with a team, with major league teams for many years. And you and I both think that the 7 game homestand, followed by a 10 game road trip, is as ideal as you can get in terms of just building a team and having a team come together. And explain your view on it.
Well, and especially for this team this year, they haven't had this luxury in a long time because of the obvious, construction at the ballpark, which had them start on the road for quite a while. I mean, when you've been away at spring training, as you know, Griff, for as long as everybody is, you're dying to get home. And especially the new guys in the club, they've never even been to Toronto before, some of them. Guys get home, you get at least that lengthy time to settle in your new surroundings, your new apartment, your family gets settled. And it's nice after such a long spring to get started at home and kind of, get situated and get comfortable with where you're going to be all year. And then, of course, like I've heard, oh, it's a 10 game road trip. Like, oh, can you imagine? Like that's right out of the chute. Well, like you've said before, it's great. You get to bond. You've had your time at home. It's time for the team now to solidify itself in that small travel party, as we've been a part of. You're ready for it. And like I said, it's better to have a 10 game road trip in April than August because we know those August ones they can get long and lengthy, especially if you're not in the race anymore. They're a little tougher. These ones you look forward to. I think you probably feel the same way I do. I know that.
Yeah, I think that the 7 game homestand to begin precludes any Thaddeus Young reactions like the Raptors guy who dissed Toronto badly because he didn't have a good experience. But
Apparently, right.
like you said, you come home and you get to settle in. And the one thing that I'll disagree with is the 3 off days before opening day because they look like they hadn't played in a week when they opened and lost to the
Fair,
Orioles, which
fair,
they really
fair.
hadn't because on the Sunday it was that the Fort Myers trip that
Yeah,
ended
right.
and or that might have been the Saturday, and then they ended at home. But in
It
any
did.
case, you really hadn't played your starting position players really hadn't played serious baseball, and then had 3 days off before facing Zach Eflin. So that's not a great ideal situation. But the 7 games at home gives you a chance, gives you a week to get settled in. As you said, new apartment. Newcomers have been here on a road trip, maybe, but not to find a place to live and to sort of be accepted by the fan base. And these are the most civil fans away from the ballpark in
Oh, for
Major League
sure.
Baseball. At the ballpark, they're like every other fan, but when you're away from the ballpark, as an athlete, they tend to leave you alone, say hello, don't harass you, and I think players love that. So then they go on the
Very
road
true.
and they're spending time together. They're going on day trips in the morning. They had the off day in New York. And to me, that's ideal. That's like anyone who complains that the Jays had a tough schedule coming out of the gate, they're full of it because these are teams you're going to have to play over 162 games. So it doesn't matter what order you play them in. And so when they come back from this 10-game road trip, whatever their record is, and right now as we record, they're 5-3 after losing to the Mets in the Mets home opener. But whatever the record is when they come home, the opening 17 game schedule is not going to be an excuse. We won't accept that
Yeah.
as an excuse. But one thing that needs to change is the home attendance. I mean,
Oh,
other after the first sellout, 40,000, whatever, 40,200,
yeah.
whatever it was, they didn't draw over 30,000. And as you point out, some of those borderline 20,000 crowds might not have been asses in seats as much as they were tickets sold and borrowing from the future.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I don't think they're ready to announce less than 20 just out of the gate. So you've got to massage that a little. Wouldn't surprise me. But I mean, I think everybody knew this is where they were going to be. It was quite obvious with the off season and kind of the temperature of where the fan base is at, that the season ticket base was substantially lower. And this team's going to have to win. The fans will be there. If they win baseball games, they will be there. And the weather didn't help, even though it's a dome, but just it was some real nasty days to travel. You know what I mean? Well, so I'm sure that didn't help them. I'll give them a break there, but they're going to need to win some ball games. So you're going to see a lot more of the barely 20,000 crowd. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean the fan base and the media, well, one of them is reflecting the other. I mean, you know my viewpoint that social media has created a monster wherein media that's unsure of what they think tend to reflect the negativity of what we know is social media always going to be find the negative points. And so what I'm looking at is a 5-3 record as we record, but a -4 run differential for the season. And remember, I mean, you remember well, you were there in 2015. The only reason
Yeah.
that Alex Anthopoulos went out at the trade deadline
Correct.
to acquire David Price and the shortstop and all those players that he did for that huge drive down the stretch was because their run differential reflected a team that was better than the record.
All
Does it,
hail the all hail the Pythagorean formula. That's
right?
why.
Does this does this run differential, is it worrisome to be under break even to be -4 with a 5-3 record? Does that portend any disasters?
I mean, it would. I think it's just too early. I mean, you've played 8 games, so it could be skewed by opening day. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that stuff, you just haven't played enough games for that to even out a little bit. But it is something people do need to watch as even across the league. It is, I think it's probably the best reflection of who you are when you play enough games is how many runs do you score and how many do you give up? It's that simple. You know what I mean? So you're right. In 15, there was reason to believe we were a lot better than we were, and there was reason to believe if you added to the team, you had a really good ball team. And I think honestly, they were the best team in baseball by the end of it. So yeah, I think it's something to pay attention to. But 8 games in, no, I don't think it's overly, it is skewed by opening day. There's no question.
Yeah, I think that a reason that makes it, or something that makes it easy for the negativity in social media is that in each of the three losses, they've been pummeled. They've lost
Yeah,
badly, and there are things that you can point out.
which
Um,
is a concern.
yeah,
Like,
and
yeah,
one of the things that you can point out, and I'm going to make the analogy, I'm going to make the comparison of John Schneider as Captain Ahab and Moby Dick as Mason Fluharty. He is his great white whale that's going to bring him down because, like, Mason Fluharty was not on the original team. Richard Lovelady was on the original team.
all Dick Lovelady. Yeah.
And like he failed in his two outings to get left-handers out significantly. And so they brought in Mason Fluharty, who had a nice spring, but by and large was pitching against the same hitters that he faced the year before. Because in spring training, when you come in late in a ball game, you're facing the other team's AAA guys and AA guys.
Right.
So now, describe your reaction when you see Mason Fluharty come in with for his major league debut, mind you, with the tying run on third base and CJ Abrams at the plate, even though he's a left-handed hitter. And your reaction to that, and then on Friday in the Mets opener when Fluharty comes in again.
It,
I
it,
know
it
you're a
tells
very
me,
reactive guy. You're an emotional baseball fan.
oh, I am. There's no question. Um, yeah, and like I said, it's not hindsight. I was really surprised he put him in that position. Um, Now, I mean, yesterday obviously it didn't go well at all, but it reminds me of a guy in Schneider who's desperate for a left-handed pitcher to get guys out. So you know what I mean? He's looking for somebody to jump up and become something perhaps they're not capable of because he wants at lefty to get key lefties out, and Fluharty has not done that. I mean, and it's I know you've kind of felt the same way when he brought him in to face Abrams, right?
Yeah, no,
This is
I had no understanding of the logic because normally when a kid comes up, a rookie, pure rookie, never been in a major league game, you ask the manager, so how are you going to ease him in? And it'll be in non-leverage situations, the game's in hand either way, you're behind or you're way ahead, that sort of thing. But to come in and face one of the game's bright young hitters in CJ Abrams just because the next four hitters are also left-handers or switch hitters just didn't seem to make any sense.
well, and then he gets not only yeah, a bright young hitter, perhaps the best hitter in the game. How'd you like to be warming up yesterday? You're coming in to face Juan Soto. You know what I mean? And when it happened, I'm like, I don't understand this move. Like, I still don't understand why. Not hindsight. When he was trotting in, I'm like, this is a recipe for disaster, and it clearly was. He put it on a tee for him. You know what I mean? It's not like he's got electric stuff or anything. He's just left-handed. Like,
Yeah, I mean, when I saw Ahab wandering to the mound there to
yeah.
get Gosman, I went, "Oh my God, this is not. It may work, but it's not the right move."
Well, and again, and I love John. I just think that's over managing. That's overthinking. It's the sixth inning. Gosman has 87 pitches. I know Soto's got good numbers against him historically, but he'd already got him twice. Um, I get it. He wasn't blowing guys away, but he had just retired 14 in a row before, you know, like
And,
if it's the eighth inning, you might go, okay, he's out of gas, and
yeah,
we're gonna have to roll the dice. You didn't need to roll the dice in the sixth inning. You know what I mean?
the logic normally is you don't bring a reliever in to replace the starting pitcher or whatever pitcher's on the mound if you judge and see who is the best pitcher at that moment to face that hitter. And to me, a Gosman who had retired 14 in a row, even though his pitch count was getting elevated, um, he walked one batter, and it was granted the beginning of the third time through the order. But that's why the third time through the order stats are so a self-fulfilling prophecy because as soon as a pitcher gets himself in trouble, he gets taken out, and that inflates his third time through the order negativity. Because you don't give
Well,
him a chance to get the three hitters in a row that
yeah,
will keep his average normal.
and again, the third time through the order is a real thing. There's no question. I mean, when you're looking at large sample sizes, there's no question. But you have to understand what you're dealing with at that moment, at that time in the game, and what your options are. You know what I mean? That I don't care. Kevin Gosman was much more suited to get out Juan Soto than I think Mason Fluharty. This is not prime Jesse Orosco you're going to get. You know what I mean? This is
So
not, oh, lights out, even historically, and Brett Cecil for crying out loud for a Blue
so
Jay. Like
just
this
to
is
just to
Kevin Costner.
summarize, just to summarize both those Fluharty appearances, C.J. Abrams lined a pitch, he worked a count and lined a pitch, a double into the right field corner to tie the game. And then when Fluharty came in to face Juan Soto. He gave up a double that scored a run. Then he
in the right-field
walked
corner.
Pete Alonso, and then he only had to face Brandon Nimmo, another left-handed hitter who lined another double.
Which
And
looked like a replay of Soto's ball.
right. And so here's just in summary of the second left-hander so far for the Blue Jays and why it may not be a solution to your bullpen. Um, 4 games for Lovelady and Fluharty. They're 1-3. They've only lost 3.
So
I,
they've got the decision in every game.
yeah,
Wow.
against left-handed hitters, these two guys, Lovelady who's gone, Fluharty shortly. Um, lefty hitters are 4 for 9 with 4 doubles, a walk, and 3 hit by pitch. They have a OPS of 1.504 against the specialists, Blue Jays lefty specialists.
Yeah, when you've got the
And
platoon advantage.
right.
Yes.
Now, either, in my opinion, either you give Sandlin a chance against those left-handers in that situation because he's reputed to have
Mhm.
success against lefty hitters, or you bring up a guy with major league experience like Josh Walker, who's on the 40-man roster, and he's pitching at Buffalo right now.
Well, and how often do we talk about in spring the need to get a left-handed pitcher? Like you said, you can't have Brendan Little as your guy, and just you and they just didn't go get one. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it just too critical. And clearly, John wants
Yeah.
one because he keeps throwing a guy into that fire, right into the fire. You end up with Dick Love and Mason Fluharty pitching critical moments when that cannot happen, man. It just can't happen.
Dick
So,
Love.
Dick Love, that's right.
They had Amir Garrett, and when they signed him as a veteran January or February edition, I thought, well, he's got a chance. You know, he's had success. He's a
Sure.
fiery guy.
On
Um,
his way down, but could still fill
yeah,
that role, maybe.
and
Yeah.
then his first outing, he got injured. He's 32 years old. He's on the IL in Buffalo right now. And so he's out of the equation, but maybe they thought he would be the guy and they wouldn't have to go with Dick Lovelady and
It's a
Mason.
lot to ask, though, even of Amir Garrett. But I mean, it was at least in the right area of where they needed to go with it, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, he was a better option than any of this. But like you
Before we
said,
before we move on here, there's the question, and we talked about it out there briefly, is Kevin Gausman with 0 strikeouts. That doesn't happen very often when he throws that many pitches. He's added a slider to his repertoire. He's used it 15% of the time this year, which is way higher than in the past. What's your theory, or is there one, on how he can go through a game with 0 strikeouts?
well, that needs to be a rarity for sure. But I think it's indicative of Gosman obviously losing some velo as he ages, like he did last year, and it's also indicative of a guy who also knows how to pitch too, adding that and going to more off-speed stuff that he knows he needs to do to get through games, and he did it superbly. You know what I mean? So he is the kind of guy who can still be effective without being the old Kevin Gosman. I think he's a sharp. He knows how to pitch, but I think he knows better. He's like, at least he knows he needs to adjust, and he is, because some guys don't. They just
Yeah.
lose the velo and it's good night, Irene. You know what I mean? So
So I
I was
think
impressed with what he did.
Yeah, I think the fastball to Pete Alonso that was off the plate and fairly well down, might have been at the
Yeah.
knees or below the knees. That is a product or a byproduct of a 95 mile an hour fastball, where in the past, as you point out, maybe he's throwing 96, 97 and the ball's hit foul or wherever. But this
Yeah.
guy's a big bull, strong guy, home run derby champ twice. And he was able to do damage there. But like you said, the rest of his outing was workmanlike,
It was
and
a near
what
perfect.
a
Yeah, it was working.
veteran pitcher has to do to get by. And like basically he left when the score was 2-0, and his runner was on, and we all know that Fluharty gave up the run, so that's 3 runs, but the Jays didn't score any. So you know.
Yeah, Vladdy got 2 hits and Springer got 2 hits. Springer's looked great so far, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Really nice to see that. And strangely enough, playing center field. So, sometimes I wonder about that too. He's just back where he's always been. I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
And
maybe it's just
yeah,
you
he
feel good when you're in those spots as a player.
obviously when Varsho comes back, he is going to
Right.
play center field every day. But I don't see any reason not to have George Springer in center field when until Varsho comes back, and then just have guys flanking him that you're gonna wheel through the lineup like Roden and
Yeah.
those guys, not Davis Schneider, but those guys that can play the corners well defensively. So
Yeah.
you mentioned Vlad, and since we recorded on Thursday and I messed up the recording on Thursday, there's been news come out about an imminent signing of Vlad to the 500 million plus contract that you and I have talked about for months. Um, do you believe that that can happen, even though there's an artificial deadline of February 18th? Do you believe that they can get it done, especially after Mark Shapiro was so coy about how close they are and how much he wants him to be a legacy player for this team?
Well, think they're all just doing the PR game, like I said. I don't know if that's factual with what Mark is saying, but um, you keep hearing it. So, I mean, in my opinion, as I said, it only gets done if they pay the tax and they come meet Vladdy's price. I just don't think this is a negotiation at this stage. I think Vladdy's price is out there, and I think it's up to the Jays to decide if they're going to pay it. Um, and if they do, he's going to get more money than I think he'd even get in the open market. I mean, you never know what kind of season he's going to have, right? But I think right now, Vladdy's what he's asking of the Jays is he knows is probably more than he's anticipating even getting on the open market, which is crazy. That's not how free agency works. But that's my belief. I think you have a lot more confidence in this getting done than I do. But there's smoke, there's fire, I guess. So
Yeah,
uh,
not my belief is that they always wanted to get it done. Honestly, they wanted to get it done, and I think
sure.
that right now, you know, his media mafia, Vlad's media mafia from the Caribbean,
Yeah,
they know things because they talk to him, they talk to his agents and advisors,
correct.
and they're saying it's imminent, it's going to happen. I think that right now it might be a case of just working out any deferrals, any opt-outs, signing bonus to equalize this year with what's going to happen to his salary in future years. I think that that's what it's all about right now, and the delay. Because I think you're exactly right. He knows that his people that represent him are smart. They know that this is the optimum time. There's no Otani coming out next year. There's no Soto coming out next year. There's Vlad coming out next year.
There's
And when
Vlad.
you're the one setting the height of the salaries, then you better look around and think of what you're really worth. He's trying to vault into that stratosphere by using Otani and Soto. And so he's smart enough to know that he doesn't have the skill set or the track record to set a new record, a new price, or even come close to those guys. So if he takes his 550 or 565, as we've been predicting, then he will be doing more than just compromising. He'll be making out like a bandit.
Well, and he knows he's got a desperate Blue Jay organization. He knows he kind of has him over the barrel here because of how it's all played out over the years and where it sits right now. They need to sign him, and he knows it. So, which is perfectly fine, right? Like
Here's my here's
he's
my
ready to
prediction.
do it.
Here's my prediction of
Yep.
the timing. They come
Okay.
back from the 10-game road trip. So there's 17 games into the season. There's no off day. They're welcoming the Atlanta Braves into town. Braves are struggling. And they announced that morning of the first game that Vlad is signing. And why do they do that? Because Alex Anthopoulos will be there
Jealous
as the
buggers.
GM of the Braves coming into town where he's much beloved. I think that Ross Atkins and Mark find it difficult to accept that Alex Anthopoulos does so much media locally
Yes.
in Toronto to this day, and that he's so beloved, and that Steve Simmons says I can pick up the phone and call Alex and he'll pick it up, and that to me would be their ultimate statement is to have the announcement made the morning the Braves are coming in. What do you think about that theory?
Hey, why not? I mean, if I were them, I might do the same thing. If you finally got one, you got a card to play it. I guess enjoy yourself if you're going to sign him, but you got to get the player signed first. So
Right. In the
I
past,
got to
in in the past, you've talked about how they missed their moment to sign both Bo and Vlad, and now we see other teams. I mean, it's been dribs and drabs over the past few years with young players signing long-term contracts in their first or second season in the major leagues. Last year, Jackson Chourio signed, and he hadn't even played a major league game yet. This year, it's Jackson Merrill, Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet is a little older, but experience-wise, he's not. Christian Campbell with the Red Sox, Lawrence Butler with the Athletics or the A's. I like the A's, but I like
Yeah.
Skydome too. And so explain your thinking that the Jays missed out and what implications it has on Vlad and Bo.
Well, they did miss out because that's how you do business in this game. I mean, that's the rules are set up that way with years of control and the way the ARB system works before you get to free agency. Teams learned, like what we were talking about, was Longoria, right?
Evan
When the
Longoria, yeah, with the Rays.
how shocking that was to everybody at the time. Like, what are they doing? They don't, but that was to maintain, to keep your player in the fold longer. And obviously, the player gets life-changing money, and he's still going to be up for a major contract in his prime. So everybody wins. And it's just how you need to take care of your potential stars to make sure they're on your club longer and at an affordable rate where even if things go sideways, yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money in layman's terms, but in baseball terms, it's not going to kill you. Then now you're stuck, the Jays with Bo and Vlad, and they're just like all the other teams bidding for his services at that point. They have the leverage is gone. There are no more years to play with as far as the like. So if you do sign Vladdy, you're paying market rates, and why would you do that with your own that
Yeah.
you've sunk all that money in and you have an exclusive audience to? So they couldn't get it done is the answer. And that's the criticism of the organization that I would have. This isn't them deciding that, oh, they don't no, they tried to sign the player and the players chose not to sign the contracts they were offered. So we can debate prices and all that, but clearly there's an issue there, and now they're in a pickle. Now they are stuck with deciding trying to win because they don't have much around them. Do we trade them or do we just pay them? And now we're paying them like free agencies, which even if you sign Vladdy, does hinder your ability to add to the team. They have a budget.
Yeah.
So if you where you could have got them for much cheaper a long time ago.
In fact, the trade deadline is going to be very interesting and very
Oof.
dependent on where the team stands in terms of wins and losses, the potential for being a wild card, and what that means to getting rid of Vlad and Bo. And that's why I think they need to sign Vlad or just cut it off. But
Right.
I think they're going to overpay Vlad. I mean, I remember when Aaron Hill followed up on the Evan Longoria contract, and the Rays had set a precedent by signing a player with 2 years and less than 2 years of major league experience to a long-term deal. The money wasn't great, but it was significant at the time. So the Jays did it the next year with Aaron Hill, similar deal, and it sort of caught on. And as we listed those players this year and last year, it's become very popular with bigger money and with more years of free agency. But then you look at what the Jays did with Bo Bichette. He had 3 years to go to free agency, and instead of buying out a couple of years into his free agency, they paid him 3 years up to his 6 years of service. It's ridiculous. Like,
because
what does that do? All it does is cost certainty, and they don't have to go to arbitration and piss the player off.
and that's the only reason it got done. Bo didn't want to do that, and they couldn't buy out free agent years because he didn't want them to. So it just avoided the what you had to go through with Vladdy, which I'm sure wasn't. I don't care what you say. There's no way he was happy having to go to ARB 2 years ago. Like it was just, you
Yeah.
just can't do that with your stars. You just like and for the amount of money, it's absurd that you did that. You just pay it.
Yeah.
Like
I
so,
mean, the
Bo
play,
just avoided that.
players always say they understand it's a business and the arbitration process, and they go in the room and they get insulted for getting picked off second base in Minnesota in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
playoff game. They say they understand it, but as a 24, 23, 25-year-old, you really don't, you know? It's the
No,
people
you
that,
don't.
yeah, it's the people you're working for and to whom you have your professional allegiance, and they're dumping on you. And you know you're the
Well,
best player in that clubhouse.
yeah, it's not. Nobody wants to hear that. I don't care what you say. Nobody wants to hear you get shit talked by your
Yeah.
employer. You know what I mean? So, oh, sorry.
Okay, we got a brief conversation on torpedo bats. Let's go. Are you in favor? Do you think they should be outlawed? Did you know Davis Schneider was using one because it doesn't seem to help? What are your
Yeah,
thoughts on that?
I think that MIT guy who designed this asked if Schneider can put it down. Just, can you please not ship my bats to Davis Schneider?
It's
Uh,
like,
I,
it's like a guy with a Rawlings glove contract, and they're paying him not to use the glove, you know?
I, the old Dave Kingman. You know what I mean? Just don't get. He can't use our gloves.
So,
Um,
so the concept and the fact that the Yankees hit all those home runs on opening day, even though their big guy refuses to use the
yeah,
bat because what did he say? I'm good enough. That's
which
pretty
is
good.
fair.
Yeah. But in
Fair.
general, do you think that it's going to catch on? Do you think it's going to be outlawed? What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it
I
matters?
just think I think you got to wait it out. I mean, let's just see what happens, obviously. Like I said, the Yankees have also had some games where they didn't score either much. You know what I mean? So it's early in the year, yeah, but I do think you have to monitor it. Sure, and but you know, like I said, you're moving wood to certain parts of the bat, which means other parts that you know had more wood don't now. So how does that impact balls off the end of the bat, things like that? I just think a lot's being made out of it too early. Let's just let it play out and get some data and let the season play out for a bit. Is my who knows? You might not even be talking about it in a month.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, it might be like a tempest in a teapot right here, but
Yeah.
you're talking about what you were saying just now is that when you hit the right spot on the bat, it's going to go farther. When you're off that because they've redistributed, it's going to go less far. It's going to not go as far as so there's going to be
Right.
a bigger gap, which to me is like the Coors Field effect, where the outfielders play deeper, and it's not the home runs that really are mile high effect. It's the balls that drop in front of outfielders because they have to play so deep. And so maybe, those balls off the end of the bat that used to carry out to outfielders with the torpedo bats are just going to dunk into the outfield and be a base hit. That's my thought on it. And
We'll see.
the other thought that I have is that it's like the Olympics. Why don't they just quit the drug testing at the Olympics and have everybody do whatever they want? So that would mean the equivalent in baseball would be cork your bat. We don't give a damn. We're gonna allow torpedo bats, cork bats. You can use all sorts of cup, even the cups at the end of the bats are sort of cheating. You're redistributing the weight.
Yeah, that's what
Uh,
it was.
yeah, so let's
It's
go all out and say just do whatever you want.
pine tar everywhere.
Yeah, right. Well, there is right now. I mean, there's guys with pine tars up to the label.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. The Blue Jays in their first 8 games. How would you rate the four aspects in terms of importance to where they are? And we talked about their -4 run differential, but there's been a clear differentiation in this. And I'm talking if you could rank 1 to 4 so far in the first 8, rotation, bullpen, hitting, and defense. What's been most important of those four for the Jays and least important?
For me, it's the rotation still number one. I think this team goes as its rotation goes. And boy, if that wasn't indicative yesterday. I mean, you're in the ball game because of your rotation, and then, the game's over soon. And I think through 8 games, the games they've won and been in, they've pitched well. That being said, defense is right there, number two for me. Watching Jimenez play, he's going to be a fan favorite. The quicker they get him out of the 4 hole, the better, I think. But honestly, because I just don't think that's where he needs to be. But there are a few players you love watching play defense, and he's one of those guys. It's like the Alomar types, where you're as excited when the team's on defense as you are on offense. You know what I mean? So to me, it goes rotation, uh, defense, then I would say hitting, and then the bullpen last for me because they're going to be trying to figure that out, and you can see they still are right now, and who's going to do what outside of Hoffman and Jimmy right now. So I have rotation one, defense two for sure. You?
Well, I got it just slightly flipped there. I've got defense #1 because to me the rotation, staying in the game as long as they do for 80 pitches, and they really did a good job coming out of spring training because they understand the importance of the rotation. Those guys prime themselves to throw 80 plus pitches coming out of the gate, but the defense allows them to go so much deeper into the game. I mean, we've all seen it going way back, going back as far as we have been in baseball. Is the if it's the plays not made behind a starting pitcher that don't show up in his pitching line, but you go, oh, he threw 100 pitches through 4 1/3 innings, when in fact there were 2 plays not made that cost him
Yeah,
an extra 15 pitches. So the
yeah.
defense, the improved defense, and I'm like you, I will no longer go for a piss while they're on defense. I want to see a play behind them. I will go with
I I
hitting.
wait for the 7, 8, 9 hitters to come up for Toronto.
Right. Exactly. Um,
You're
but
safe.
yeah, but yeah, because if Sportsnet was to put together a highlight package of infield plays, just bang, bang, bang. That would be solid entertainment, even just through the first 8 games, because there've been
Agreed.
so many games like you go, that's a hit, and then it's not. And the comparison, I know it's a Hall of Fame defender in Alomar, but I see that on some of the plays that
Absolutely.
Jimenez is making. Um, so the rotation is second, and I put the defense ahead of them because I think rotation relies so much on
Yeah,
defense.
no, I respect that. I respect
Yeah.
that for sure.
Then I would go bullpen third because they've established who the high leverage back end guys are going to be. And Brendan Little, as the first left-hander, has done nothing to say that he can't be that guy, even though he's not
Yeah.
got the experience of some. But you got Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia can both close out games. And we're not sure of Yariel, what role he's going to
We're not
have.
sure. Yeah.
He's been very inconsistent. And Chad Green's a proven veteran. He's on the downside, but if you're not asking him to pitch 2 8th innings in a row, he can do the job for you. It's just the run differential has relied on the bottom end of the bullpen. Your Jacob Barnes, your Lovelady, your
Mhm.
Mason Fluharty.
Yeah.
those
Maybe
guys,
RL too.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
who have struggled, and that if you believe that if you're in a close game in the eighth and ninth innings that you can close it out with this bullpen, I put the bullpen ahead of hitting because the hitting still has to define itself. You look around baseball, every team has their top guy. Well, they flash 4 home runs, 12 RBIs, 3 home runs, 11
Yeah.
RBI. And the Jays insisted that going into the season they want their top three hitters to hit in the first inning every game.
Yeah.
And that's why Andres Jimenez is leading off the second inning most nights because these guys aren't getting on base.
They're 0 for 3. Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, we've discussed this, but what slight adjustment to the top four in the order would you make?
Well, we said this opening day. I said it. He should be in the two hole if you and if you want to, I get it. I respect the fact maybe out of the gate you're like, I'm going to really show some confidence in this guy. Put him in the four hole. It allows us to get those guys at the top of the order, but he's more suited to the two hole, hit the ball, make bat the ball contact, hit it the other way, do some things to, hopefully, if he's going well, to set the table. Because if you believe in your guys, then your four hitter's going to get up in the first inning and he's going to get up with a man on. You know what I mean? Which is where you want Santander and those guys. And I just think it lengthens the lineup a little bit too. Maybe you're splitting hairs here, but it's just, and I also think it's not a very good look if you're saying this is our four-hole hitter. Guy,
Yeah.
has had 2 bad years in a row. Like
Yeah, it's like we're going to contend, and he's proving us right in a small sample, But
yeah,
put that bat in the two hole because clearly they have found with Santander, and he's a notoriously slow starter, so he has to make adjustments. But they're beating him with a high fastball, high heat, 97, 98 above the zone. He's swinging through it. And with two outs and nobody on, with him batting third, you can afford to do that. You can afford
right,
to take chances with him because the worst that's going to happen is a guy who doesn't run the bases well that gets on a walk. But if he chases just one pitch, it puts the pitcher in charge of the at bat.
right,
So, like now, if he's batting fourth and there's a runner on base, you can't afford to pitch Santander the same way as you would with nobody on and two out. And that's
right.
the bottom line is this is not the optimum lineup for a team that wants to contend. To say that Andres Jimenez is my number two hitter instead of my number four hitter makes you more legit around baseball. You know, like they look at the box score and they go, yeah, yeah, no, that's a pretty solid top four in the
Yeah,
lineup. And
I
then
get it.
Springer's
That's
swinging
right.
the bat well. Springer's swinging the bat well. Kirk is going to be Kirk.
Yeah,
He'll jam the bases when he gets on. He'll get thrown he'll get thrown out in the ninth inning trying to stretch a single off the wall into a double, but
yeah.
when they're down 10.
You got to make things happen, Griff.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up. As speaking of Alejandro Kirk, you know, he is expected to catch 120 games. It's like
Affected by
who
who? Holy
by
smokes.
Captain
Yeah,
Ahab.
yeah, that's right.
Uh, I mean, it's like
I know Mason Fluharty's never been compared to Moby Dick in his life.
I know that
Somebody should let him know. Yeah.
I know that where we lost our train of thought here.
Uh, Kirk, you said.
Oh yeah, Kirk. Um,
Sorry for that.
we have like there's that famous comedian who said, "My goal in life is to live forever," and so far so good. You know,
That's
and
right.
that's the same situation with Kirk. You're going, oh, we want him to catch 120 games, and so far so good. He's only
So
had to
far,
sit
so good.
two of the eight.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a long, hot summer, and that's why you and I never went on those July, August road trips.
That's right. Time to pass those on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do feel just talking about the catching that we need to apologize, or one of us needs to apologize to Tyler Heineman for dismissing him in favor of Christian Betancourt, who's now 0 for 11 with 9 Ks in Buffalo.
Yeah, I don't know if we need apologies in order yet, but I'll congratulate Tyler on a couple of good ball games. So, like I said, I thought I'd see another bat flip uh,
Yeah.
picture next to Jose's with
Oh yeah.
after
Over,
that the
right.
Tyler Heineman bat flip. Yes, next to the Jose Batista one. So,
But yeah, I
but
mean,
good
uh,
games, Tyler.
Heineman has started twice, and the Jays have won twice. So that's pretty good, and he's contributed. He had a home run, he had a bunt single, and he threw out the runner stealing second, who would have been the tying run in the ninth inning to end the ball game.
Oh,
So
it was big. So I
yeah.
get, I assume Sunday's an afternoon game, right?
Yes.
Probably. So he'll catch then, I presume, obviously. So we'll have a third game from our boy.
If
See
it
what
was the
he's
Yankees, if it was the Yankees or Red Sox at Citi Field, it would have been a night game. You know that.
yeah, that's
Network
exactly.
game.
Yeah,
But
I
the
know. So
Jays
that's
after
why
all.
I asked. But yeah, the
Anyway,
Jays never play that game. Makes sense ever. So
we wrap it up there, and we will be back if next Thursday, regular time, and you can probably pick it up on where you get your podcasts on Thursday afternoon, and then YouTube on Friday, and we'll make sure that it's distributed. And I apologize for being technologically an idiot.
oh, well, this
Um,
is two of us. That makes two of us.
And we look forward to next week. If you want to catch any of my previous columns or any previous Exit Philosophy podcasts, you can go on griffstopitch.com and subscribe, like, share with your friends. And thanks for being available, Mal, for a
Yeah, no
recast
problem.
of this week. And we will see you next week.
Go Blue Jays.